captain in the U.S. Army sits frozen at his kitchen table in Honolulu, a pistol trembling in his hand. Across from him, his wife, the woman he's loved for 3 years, the mother of his child, confesses through tears that she's been feeding classified military intelligence to enemy operatives. In less than an hour, federal agents will arrive to execute her for treason. But there's a third option neither of them saw coming. What happens next will destroy everything he thought he knew about loyalty, love, and the unthinkable choices war forces us to make. This is the true story of Captain James Whitmore and how one horrifying discovery turned his entire life into ashes. The year is 1987. A military transport drops through turbulent skies over the Sahara, and a lone paratrooper plunges into the scorching Algerian desert. This is Captain James Whitmore, 34 years old, special operations, decorated veteran. He's done this kind of extraction before, but never like this. A battered Land Rover emerges from the heat waves, piloted by a silent local contact. Inside a steel case waiting on the passenger seat, 6 different passports, 12,000 in various currencies, and a Beretta 92 hidden beneath false documentation. The driver, speaking rough Arabic, gives James the address of a safe house in Algiers where his arranged wife is waiting. This isn't a real marriage, it's a cover operation. James is dropped in the bustling heart of Algiers, navigating through crowded marketplaces until he reaches an upscale restaurant overlooking the Mediterranean. And that's when he sees her, Victoria Lormont. That's the name on her forged papers anyway. 30 years old, French-Algerian, and according to her dossier, one of the most effective deep-cover operatives in North African intelligence. She spots him across the room, and her entire demeanor shifts. Suddenly, she's a wife who hasn't seen her husband in months. She rushes to him, throws her arms around his neck, introduces him to her circle of friends as her beloved husband, who's been working in London. They've never met before today, but Victoria's performance is flawless. She even remembers to mention the anniversary gift he promised her, a detail planted in both their briefings to make the cover airtight. After 20 minutes of champagne and small talk, she excuses them both, claiming they have catching up to do. In the car, the masks come off. James tries to make conversation, asking about the failed operation in Beirut that got her last team killed. She shuts him down immediately. We're not here to discuss the past. We're here to eliminate Hassan Qadri before he brokers that arms deal. Everything else is irrelevant. Her coldness is striking, but so is her precision. As they drive through the narrow streets of Algiers, she points out surveillance cameras, notes the rotation schedule of local police, identifies which neighbors are just nosy and which might be informants. They arrive at a modest apartment overlooking the old city. Victoria immediately slips back into character because the landlady is watching from across the street. Inside, they negotiate sleeping arrangements. James takes the couch. Victoria mentions that his London accent is unconvincing. If anyone asks, he should claim he's originally from Manchester. It's a small adjustment, but it might save their lives. That night, James steps onto the rooftop terrace, staring out at the glittering Algerian coastline. Victoria joins him moments later, and for the first time, she lets her guard down just slightly. She asks what he plans to do when the Cold War finally ends. He doesn't have an answer. The next morning, they attend services at a Catholic church, part of their cover as a respectable expatriate couple. Afterward, they stop at a cafe for coffee and croissants. That's when James spots him, a Soviet intelligence officer he recognizes from a botched operation in Istanbul 2 years ago. The man is sitting 3 tables away, and from the way his eyes linger, James knows he's been recognized too. Victoria notices the shift in James's posture. What's wrong? That man, KGB, he interrogated me in Turkey. I think he knows who I am. The Soviet officer stands, heading toward the restrooms. James grabs a bread roll from the table and follows. His instincts are correct. The officer is already on a payphone, speaking rapid Russian, reporting James's location. Before the call completes, James moves. He grabs the man from behind, forces him against the wall, and jams the bread down his throat. The officer thrashes, chokes, collapses. To anyone who finds him, it'll look like he died from choking during lunch. Crisis averted. For now. That evening, they have dinner with Victoria's local contacts, aid workers who have no idea they're sitting across from intelligence operatives planning an assassination. James narrowly avoids being introduced to a genuine Londoner, which would have blown their cover instantly. Later, on the rooftop again, James presses her about Beirut. She finally opens up. Her entire team was set up, abandoned by their own agency, left to die in an ambush. She was the only one who escaped. 8 people slaughtered because of bad intelligence or deliberate betrayal. She still doesn't know which. The next day, they drive into the desert for target practice. James hands her a Soviet-made Makarov pistol they'll need for the assassination. Victoria fumbles with the safety mechanism, and for a split second, James wonders if she's really as capable as her file claims. She catches his doubt and tells him to stop testing her. Over lunch back at the apartment, Victoria suddenly unbuttons her shirt slightly, leaning closer. "I'm testing you the same way you tested me with that gun," she says. How well do we really trust each other? It's a valid question. Their lives depend on perfect coordination. The mission advances. James has a meeting with Yusuf al-Rahim, a corrupt Algerian official who controls access to Hassan Qadri's compound. They need an invitation to the upcoming reception where Qadri will be present. James, pretending to be a British mining executive, enters al-Rahim's office with Victoria posing as his assistant. Al-Rahim is suspicious but intrigued. He proposes a card game. If James wins, he gets the invitation. If he loses, he leaves empty-handed. James plays carefully and wins, securing their access. But before they leave, Al-Rahim tests him. "Write down the chemical composition of chromite ore," he demands. It's a trap. If James can't answer, his cover as a mining consultant collapses. Fortunately, James was briefed thoroughly. He writes it down without hesitation. They're cleared. Before we continue with what happens at that deadly reception, if you're gripped by this story, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We cover the most intense true crime cases that'll leave you stunned. You won't want to miss what's coming next. That night, unable to sleep, Victoria joins James on the rooftop. He suggests they drive out to the desert to watch the sunrise. Maybe their last sunrise if the mission goes wrong. As dawn breaks over the sand dunes, painting the horizon in gold and crimson, they talk about survival odds. Neither is optimistic. Then a sandstorm rolls in. They rush back to the Land Rover, but the storm engulfs them faster than expected. Trapped in the vehicle, surrounded by howling wind and blinding sand, something shifts between them. The adrenaline, the isolation, the nearness of death, it all collapses the distance they've maintained. They give in to the attraction that's been building since they met. The reception at Hassan Qadri's compound is opulent and heavily guarded. James and Victoria arrive dressed impeccably, blending into the crowd of arms dealers, diplomats, and criminal financiers. They're waiting for their extraction team to create a diversion outside, an explosion that will draw security away. While they wait, James can't stop looking at Victoria. In the middle of this deadly mission, surrounded by enemies, he realizes something terrifying. He's falling in love with her. Then the explosion hits. Chaos erupts. In the confusion, James and Victoria make their move, cornering Hassan Qadri in a private hallway. 2 silent shots. Mission complete. They fight their way out, gunning down guards, sprinting through smoke and screaming guests. Against all odds, they make it to the extraction vehicle. As they speed away from the compound, Victoria is laughing in disbelief. "I can't believe we actually survived." James, still riding the adrenaline, blurts out, "Come to Honolulu. Marry me." She stares at him, stunned. Then she kisses him. 3 weeks later, Honolulu, Hawaii. James is summoned to Naval Intelligence Headquarters at Pearl Harbor. His commanding officer, Colonel Douglas Park, informs him that Victoria has been vetted by military intelligence and cleared to enter the United States. She's coming to Honolulu. Colonel Park, however, issues a warning. "Marriages born in the field don't last, Captain. You fall in love with the mission, not the person." James doesn't care. When Victoria arrives, they marry in a small ceremony on Waikiki Beach. His sister Catherine flies in from Seattle to attend. They're deliriously happy, and 6 months later, Victoria is pregnant. April 1988. Honolulu is experiencing unusual heavy storms when Victoria goes into labor. The hospital loses power mid-delivery, emergency generators kicking in as thunder shakes the building. Through it all, Victoria brings their daughter into the world. They name her Sophie. 1 year passes. The Whitmore family settles into a quiet neighborhood in the hills above Honolulu. James works at Pearl Harbor in strategic intelligence. Victoria stays home with Sophie, seemingly the picture of a devoted mother. One Saturday, they plan to go hiking in the rainforest to gather wild ginger for a Thai curry Victoria wants to make. They drop Sophie off with the babysitter, a friendly older woman named Helen who lives 2 streets over, and head into the mountains. The hike is beautiful. They're still deeply in love. Everything seems perfect. When they return home that afternoon, James gets a call from headquarters. He needs to come in immediately, urgent. At the office, he's met by his colleague, Lieutenant Mason Reed, who escorts him to a private conference room. Waiting inside, Colonel Park and a stone-faced officer from the Defense Intelligence Agency. The DIA officer doesn't waste time. Captain Whitmore, we have reason to believe your wife is a foreign intelligence operative. James feels the floor drop out from under him. The officer continues. We've intercepted classified U.S. military intelligence being transmitted to hostile foreign powers. The source is operating out of Honolulu. Based on communication patterns and access points, we believe that source is a woman. Your wife fits the profile. James can barely breathe. That's insane. Victoria was vetted, she was cleared. We believe the real Victoria Laurent was killed in Beirut. A foreign agent assumed her identity and was sent to Algiers specifically to get close to you. You have high-level clearance, Captain. You're a perfect target. The room spins. The DIA officer lays out the plan. They're going to run a blue dye test. They'll feed James fake classified information over the phone tonight at home. He must write it down somewhere Victoria can see it. If that information gets transmitted to enemy handlers by Monday morning, they'll know she's guilty. And if she's guilty, James has 2 options. Execute her himself, or be charged with treason as an accomplice and face execution. You have 72 hours, Captain. James drives home in a daze. At dinner, he tries to act normal, but his hands are shaking. Victoria's excited about hosting a barbecue tomorrow for their neighbors. She doesn't notice anything wrong. That night, James lies in bed, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the call. Victoria climbs in beside him, playful, trying to initiate intimacy. The phone rings. James answers. The voice on the other end feeds him the fake intelligence, troop movements, supply routes, encryption codes. He writes it down on a notepad beside the bed, exactly as instructed. Victoria continues teasing him, trying to get his attention. He hangs up, sets the notepad on the nightstand, and gives in to her advances, all while his heart is shattering. Afterward, Victoria falls asleep. James watches her, searching her face for any sign of deception. The notepad is right there. Did she glance at it? He can't tell. The next morning, James wakes early. Victoria asks why he's in his uniform when he's supposed to have the day off. He lies, saying he needs to pick up supplies from the base for the barbecue. He tells her to meet him at a bar downtown later to grab beer. Before leaving, James takes the notepad with the fake intelligence and locks it in his briefcase. His first stop, Catherine's house in the suburbs. His sister immediately knows something is wrong. James breaks protocol and tells her everything. The DIA's suspicions, the blue dye test, the impossible choice he's been given. Catherine is horrified. You can't seriously believe Victoria is a spy. I don't know what to believe anymore. Next, James drives to the VA hospital. He's looking for someone named David Ortiz, a former operative who served with the real Victoria Laurent in Beirut. David was severely injured in the ambush that killed Victoria's team. He lost both his legs and his eyesight. James finds him in the physical therapy wing, bitter and broken. He shows David a photograph of the woman he married. Is this Victoria Laurent? David's sightless eyes stare past him. I can't see anymore, Captain. But there's someone who can help you. Anton Markov. He was part of our Beirut team. Last I heard, he's running a safe house in Damascus. James now has a lead, but Damascus is deep in hostile territory. He heads to the naval air station and finds the young pilot, scheduled to fly a supply drop into Syria that night. The pilot, barely 23 years old, is named Eric Cross, and he's terrified. It's his first mission behind enemy lines. James gives him a photo of Victoria and explicit instructions. When you land, find Anton Markov. Ask him if this is the same woman he knew in Beirut. That's it. Just get me an answer. Eric nods, looking like he might vomit. James arrives at the bar where Victoria has been waiting. She's nursing a beer, looking beautiful and relaxed. As they wait for their order, she says something that chills him. You were different last night. When we made love, you felt distant. James forces a smile and changes the subject. That evening, the Whitmore's backyard is full of neighbors and friends. Music playing, drinks flowing. James stands apart, watching Victoria laugh and chat, wondering if everything about her is a lie. Colonel Park arrives unexpectedly. He pulls James aside into the garage, fury in his eyes. You went to see David Ortiz. You sent a pilot into Syria to verify your wife's identity. That's a direct violation of orders, Captain. I need to know the truth. You killed that pilot. Eric Cross was captured by Syrian forces while waiting for Anton's answer. He was executed 2 hours ago. James feels like he's been punched. A 23-year-old kid, dead because of him. Park continues. You sit tight, you follow orders, and you wait for the test results. That's it. He leaves. James rejoins the party, guilt and paranoia consuming him. He watches Victoria talking to a man he doesn't recognize. A jeweler, she later explains, trying to sell her an emerald bracelet. James doesn't believe her. He follows the man outside, confronts him, asks pointed questions. The man seems genuine. Suddenly, air raid sirens scream across Honolulu. Soviet bombers, an incursion that happens occasionally during this tense period of the Cold War. Everyone rushes inside. The bombers aren't supposed to strike civilian areas, but one of them is hit by anti-aircraft fire. It spirals downward, heading straight for the neighborhood. James grabs Victoria and Sophie. They brace for impact. The plane crashes into the empty lot 3 houses down, exploding in a fireball. Miraculously, no one is killed. The next morning, neighbors gather around the wreckage, kids playing on the scorched metal. James takes a photo of Victoria holding Sophie in the sunlight. That evening, James tells Victoria he has to fly a cargo run and will be gone overnight. She kisses him goodbye. He doesn't go to the base. Instead, he bribes his way onto a covert flight into Syria, using every contact and favor he has. He lands outside Damascus under cover of darkness, met by a local resistance cell. He asks for Anton Markov. He's in jail, got drunk, started a fight. Syrian authorities locked him up. James doesn't hesitate. He and the resistance fighters storm the jail, holding guards at gunpoint. They find Anton in a cell, barely conscious. James shoves the photo in his face. Is this Victoria Laurent? Anton, slurring, squints at the photo. Yeah, that's her. Relief floods through James, but then Anton adds, almost as an afterthought, I remember. She played La Marseillaise on the piano once, right in front of Soviet officers, bold as hell. James freezes. Victoria told him she couldn't play piano. She said she never learned. They're forced to fight their way out of the jail as Syrian soldiers arrive. James and the resistance fighters barely escape, leaving bodies behind. James flies back to Honolulu as dawn breaks. He arrives home before Victoria wakes up. He sits at the kitchen table, his service pistol on the surface in front of him. Victoria comes downstairs, sees him, sees the gun. James, what happened? Take Sophie to Helen's house, then come with me. She's confused, frightened, but she obeys. They drop Sophie off and drive in silence to the closed bar from yesterday. James unlocks it. He has a key from a friend who owns the place. Inside, he leads her to the old upright piano in the corner. Play La Marseillaise. Victoria stares at him. What? You told me you couldn't play piano, but Anton Markov remembers you playing the French anthem in Beirut. So play it. Prove you're who you say you are. Silence. Victoria's face crumbles. Tears stream down her cheeks. I can't. Because you don't know how. Because I'm not her. The words hang in the air like a death sentence. Victoria, the woman he loves, the mother of his child, confesses everything. The real Victoria Laurent was killed in Beirut. A foreign intelligence operative was given her identity and sent to Algiers with one mission: get close to Captain James Whitmore, marry him, gain access to U.S. military secrets. But everything else was real, she sobs. I fell in love with you. I love Sophie. I never wanted this. James's hands are shaking. Why? Why did you do it? They have my family. My real family back in Eastern Europe. If I don't cooperate, they'll kill them. I didn't have a choice. James tells her about the blue dye test, the 72-hour deadline, the order to execute her. They're coming for you tomorrow morning. Victoria nods slowly, resigned. Then she looks at him with desperate hope. We can run. Take Sophie. Disappear. I know people who can get us out of the country. James considers it. For one agonizing moment, he actually considers it. Then he thinks about Eric Cross, the 23-year-old pilot he sent to his death. He thinks about every soldier whose life was endangered by the intelligence Victoria passed to enemy handlers. He thinks about the oath he took. I can't. They go to Helen's house, the babysitter. James walks in first. Helen reaches for a phone. James shoots her twice. She collapses. Helen was Victoria's handler. They take Sophie and drive to the jeweler's shop, the man who tried to sell Victoria the bracelet at the party. James walks in alone. The jeweler sees him, knows immediately why he's there. James shoots him before he can reach the weapon under the counter. 2 handlers eliminated. They speed toward the naval air station. James plans to steal a plane, fly them out of the country, disappear forever. It's insane, but it's the only option left. They reach the airfield. James leaves Victoria and Sophie in the car. Sprints to a cargo plane, climbs into the cockpit. He's trying to start the engine when he sees headlights in the rearview mirror. Multiple vehicles racing toward them. The engine sputters, fails, sputters again. Victoria watches from the car, clutching Sophie, panic rising. The engine finally roars to life. But it's too late. The vehicles screech to a stop in front of the plane, blocking the runway. Colonel Park steps out, flanked by armed military police. Captain Whitmore, stand down. You're under arrest for treason. James climbs out of the cockpit, hands raised. They threatened our daughter, Doug. They said they'd kill Sophie if Victoria didn't cooperate. She didn't have a choice. Treason is treason, Captain. You know the law. Then let me take her away. Let us disappear. You'll never see us again. I can't do that. Then I'm not letting you take her. The standoff stretches. Military police train their rifles on James. Victoria, still in the car, watches through the windshield, tears streaming down her face. She looks at Sophie, sleeping peacefully in her car seat, oblivious to the nightmare unfolding around her. Victoria makes her choice. She kisses Sophie's forehead, whispers something inaudible, and steps out of the car. She walks toward James slowly, hands raised. I love you, she calls out. Take care of our daughter. James's face twists in anguish. No, Victoria, get back in the car. She keeps walking. It's okay, it's over. Victoria, please. She stops 10 feet away from him. She looks at Colonel Park. He didn't know. James didn't know anything until yesterday. He's innocent. Park says nothing. Victoria looks back at James one last time. "Tell Sophie I loved her more than anything." Then she reaches into her jacket. James screams, "No!" But she's not reaching for a weapon. She pulls out a small notebook, her real journal, the one where she documented everything. She drops it on the ground, and then she pulls a pistol from her waistband, one James didn't know she had, and before anyone can react, she raises it to her own head. The gunshot echoes across the airfield. James was cleared of all charges. Colonel Park's report stated that Captain Whitmore acted to apprehend a foreign operative and prevent further intelligence leaks. He was honorably discharged 6 months later. He moved with Sophie to Seattle near Catherine. He never remarried. In Victoria's journal, investigators found detailed records of her intelligence activities, but also letters she'd written to Sophie, never intending to send them. In one, she wrote, "I know you'll grow up hating me. I know you'll be told I was a traitor, a liar, a monster. And maybe I was. But I need you to know that you were the best thing that ever happened to me. I never expected to fall in love. I never expected to become a mother. And I would do anything to take back the choices that led us here. I'm sorry I couldn't be the mother you deserved. I'm sorry I couldn't be the woman your father believed I was. But know that every moment I spent with you was real. My love for you was real. That's the only truth I have left to give you." James kept the letter. When Sophie turned 18, he gave it to her. She read it once, folded it carefully, and never spoke of it again. This true story shows how, even in the world of espionage and betrayal, love and tragedy can intersect in the most devastating ways. If this case left you speechless, make sure you're subscribed because we're bringing you more shocking true crime stories that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Hit that like button, drop a comment telling us what you thought about Captain Whitmore's impossible choice, and check out our other videos for more cases that'll haunt you long after you watch them. Thanks for watching, and